Hello, our team is Christian Kesler, Savannah, Keane, and Robert Stevens, and for our project, we decided to do World Cup locations. The problem statement for this assignment was to build an interactive web mapping application that allows users to explore each event through a map interface and a timeline selector. The solution to this problem that we came up with was an interactive map that allows users to view World Cup locations by year. We created an attribute table for each location with the following information: country, city, year, winner, logo image, and Wikipedia link.
Huge expectation on Brazil.
I'm gonna give you my heart.
Stand by for high anxiety and tremendous excitement.
Neymar, it seems, cannot be stopped. Messi, majestic at the Maracanã.
What we have here is a screenshot of the ArcMap data that we use. We manually created a bunch of point shape files in ArcMap that correspond to each of the World Cup locations that we wanted to take a look at. So here is a look at our attribute table that we created. Each of these point shape files contains attributes corresponding to the year of the World Cup, the country it was in, the city it was in, the winner of that game, and a link to a Wikipedia image and a link to a Wikipedia website that further describes each World Cup. This tool is called Layer to KML within ArcMap, and what it does is it takes the shapefiles that we created manually and it converts them to a KML file type, which can be used in Tethys as well as in Google Maps. So here we have just a shot of the actual Layer to KML tool that we used in ArcMap to convert our shapefiles to the KML data type. Here's the World Cup cities, and we've got that loaded in there. We can just see that it outputs to a file here on the computer. It outputs to a KMZ, which is just a KML, but that's been zipped. So all that we needed to do was to unzip that in order to use it in Google Earth, and as well as in Tethys.
Here we have our doc.kml file that we imported into PyCharm. At the beginning, we have our metadata about the World Cup point. So here just gives us our tag for the coordinates so it knows where to place it on the map. This is just a place mark ID that identifies each of the points. Here's the name of the country. And then down here, it gives all the metadata that shows in the pop-up. So it starts with the country's name and right here, and then it shows the city that it was mainly hosted in. It gives the winner, which was Italy and then Germany. Here we have two different, it was hosted twice in Italy. So the year that it was hosted was first in 1934 and then 1990, which also shows in the pop-up. Here we have the image that shows in the pop-up. We changed the code here to show an image source. So it actually shows the image in the pop-up and not just a link to the image. And then down here we have a Wikipedia link that you can click on and takes you to the wiki with all the information on the World Cup. Down here is data that we added into each of the points. We had to add a display name with the year and then the value. So that way it grabs it for a slider bar that we created. It grabs this data for each of the year and references it to use later. We use this data for each of the 16 points that are all listed in this doc.kml file. And then in here we have all the HTML coding that we did for the Tethys app. In the navigation items, we have this block that we just created to reference the tab for the KML map. We didn't have any other tabs that we added to the map, so we just have that single tab referenced there. In our block app content, which is all of this, it all appears here in this block. First, we referenced a link to where we got the slider bar that we used, which was from jQuery. Here's the script source to reference for the Java for it. Down here in this paragraph text, we have a label for the World Cup year range, which appears above the slider, and then the data, the programming that we did, reference the years that this slider was appearing for. Here just gives data on the format of the World Cup year range label. And then here we changed, it gave the slider length. We added this width to change how long the slider bar was. Originally, jQuery just pops it up as reaching the whole length of the web browser of that block. We changed it because we wanted it to be shorter. Down here we reference an href for the map, and then down here we reference the script source for the Java for the map as well. We changed the height and the width of the map. The default didn't fit the size that we wanted in this block, so we changed it to take up this whole space. And then down here we just referenced for the HTML for the pop-up that we created.
Here is our JavaScript file. We chose to put our HTML into a JavaScript because Tethys, when it starts, first looks through a JavaScript file before going to anything else. Also, it made it all uniform. So to start on our JavaScript, up here at the top, we started work on our slider bar. The var applicable years shows the start of the map, what years will be present, which we included all of them. Here's our code for our slider bar. We had to create a loop that took some time to think through, and with help from other students and professors, where we start at 1930 and go through year by year with this I++, and it takes the range that we put in the slider bar, and if the year is not in the range, then it's false. If the year is in the range, it's true. And it runs through every possibility when we give it a certain range. Down here, if it's true at this if statement, it'll display this image, which we have saved on our drive, at a scale of 0.1, which is the soccer ball image. If it's not true, it fills that image and makes it transparent or disappear, so it's not there. Further down, we have parts for our map with the projection, the raster layer, and then here we reference the KML doc file with all of the data about each World Cup location. At this section, we set the center of the map and how far out we're zoomed into when you first start on the map. We chose for a view of the entire world instead of just focusing on one country, so you could see all the World Cup locations to start. Down here, we created the pop-ups with all the information from the KML file. Further down here, we set the styles and the initial settings for the slider bar. We gave it a range from 1930 to 2006 for the min and max that you could go to, so you can't go smaller or larger than that because all of our World Cup values are in between that range. The values here from 1930 to 2016 is the start value that displays on the slider bar. And this is more data or more code about the slider bar. As you slide it, what will happen. And over here, if we go to our map, you can see at our start, you can see every single World Cup. If you click on one, on the pop-up it displays the country that hosted it, the city that it was mainly in, the winner, the year it took place, the logo for that World Cup, and a Wikipedia page link that you can click on and it'll take you to. As for the slider, as you slide it, countries will disappear. If you wanted to see, so you can see only 3 happened in between these years. If you wanted to see where the first World Cups were, you can see that they are mostly in South America or Europe. So this is our project. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you learned something from it and you can apply it in your lives. Thank you.
Götze! It's Mario Götze!